Welcome back to another episode of Direct Edition. I'm your host, Dave. You know, the comic book guy from YouTube. West Coast Davengers. You know, that guy. Oh, Jesus. Today I bring you my interview with comics superstar Daniel Warren Johnson. Daniel Warren Johnson is the current... he's the person bringing butts into comic book stores today. He just finished up his first 6 issues on the new Transformers book, where he was the writer and the artist, and then he's getting ready to start his second arc as just the writer. Some of the books that have come out that he's done in the last 5 to 10 years are just, they're unique and they're great. Murder Falcon, Do a Powerbomb, Extremity, Ghost Fleet, his miniseries in Beta Ray Bill, Wonder Woman Dead Earth. He's one of these guys that I was turned on to. I kept hearing his name and I was like, I got to check it out. And the first book I read of his was Do a Powerbomb. And then I went on to Murder Falcon. But the interview that happened on YouTube a couple of weeks ago was about his Kickstarter for the signature edition of Extremity, which is basically an artist edition of the entire 12 issues. And if you don't know him and you don't know his work, pick up one of the things I mentioned. Check out his YouTube channel. He does a Friday show where, you know, he just kind of hangs out, draws a little bit, and, you know, just chats with everybody. He's a big nerd, and he's lovable, and he's a sweet dude. He plays guitar. He's a family man. Like, he's just, I don't know. I'm gushing over him because I guess I have a man crush on him. But before we get to that, just want to let you know, the loyal listener, I really love the response I've gotten from this podcast, and I'm still going to be talking about comics, but going to keep expanding it to other things. And, you know, I'll talk about it at the end, but please subscribe to it and rate and review it. And DavengerCon's coming up. So when you hear this, DavengerCon will be a short ways away, maybe 7 to 10 days. That is a 2-day streaming event on my YouTube channel. It's going to be a bunch of sellers, Japan Book Hunter, 9.9 Newsstand, Maddie's Comics, and then some guests in the comic creating community. So with that, without further ado, I present to you my interview with Daniel Warren Johnson. What's up, Dan?
What's up, man? How are you?
Good. Nice to have you on, and thank you for taking time out of your super busy schedule to come on this Lunatics channel right here.
No worries at all. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. We joked around. The first question might be, why are you so damn good looking? That was Prince of Cheese wanted to know that. You know, I don't know.
Well, that's very flattering. Thank you. You know, funny thing about my good looks, if you'll notice, the bridge of my nose is a little crooked.
Yeah.
It goes like this. That is because I accidentally hit myself in the face with my own guitar like 6 years ago.
Were you twirling it?
I was putting it on my body and I hit myself in my face with it. So it was not even that cool.
All right. Well, look, we can't all be as coordinated as, you know, somebody that plays in front of 50,000 people every night. But
true.
I like your, is that a Rucking Fountain thing shirt?
This is a thing. It's like the Korean box set. All right, okay. Yeah.
Greatest science fiction movie of all time, maybe? Maybe?
It's really good.
Yeah. Well, I know your time's pretty limited, so why don't we jump into talking about Extremity, the signature edition, the Kickstarter, which ends in 2 days, is currently at $240,252. So we've got 2 days left, 250 grand, I think, or it's 275 that releases the last what's that called? Unlocking the last
tier.
Yeah, let's call it a tier.
Pledge.
Stretch goal. There we go.
Thank you. Oh, geez.
Stretch goal. Well, so what this is, and I obviously want to let you explain it, but Extremity was your 12 issue epic Revolutionary War family story. And this is the story presented in only the original art, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, so no dialogue. So if you've never read it before, this is a hard way to read it. But if you are looking to see the amazing original art, this is the way to see it. You know,
I mean, yeah, it is a niche. It's a niche thing, I think, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one that I am really excited about.
Sure.
Especially when I get artist editions from like other people. And you know, if I'm buying like an artist edition of something, I have read this book a few times already,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm
Yes.
looking to get into the nitty gritty of like what made that art sing, and a chance to view it in like full color with like the bluishness of the whiteout and
Mm-hmm.
the scratchy pencil marks that were left over because the eraser didn't quite do its job that well, or even, you know, there's plenty of spots where I missed erasing.
Yeah, yeah.
Like in the corners, you know, this stuff is the thing that I've always really loved about kind of behind the scenes looks that like that an artist edition would show. So I have quite a few. They're all up there.
Yeah, yeah. I have a strong shelf in my bedroom that supports about 100 pounds of artist editions.
Yeah, like when I was moving them, we moved into this house and I had like 6 or so. I have more now.
Yeah.
And you know, you have like these like terrible, like, what have I done thoughts? Like I have all this stuff. But then now that I have my library set up and it's on its shelf in the nice little section, I'm like, I'm feeling like I want to be inspired today. So I guess it's kind of a bold claim for me to hope that an artist edition might inspire some other people, but that is, I guess, essentially the goal. So.
Yeah. And it's a way, and for anybody listening who's watching, the link for the Kickstarter is in the description below, as well as Dan's YouTube channel and everything else you need. But for somebody that collects original art, and I don't know if you can see your double page spread from Ghost Fleet right here, which is your Optimus Prime prototype, as I like to call it, but not.
You have the Proto Transformers page.
That's right. But you know, for people that can't afford to collect original art, because it is not cheap, these artist editions are exactly what we all want. I mean, you get to see it all, and it's like having the original art, except you just can't feel the tactility of the whiteout. That's pretty much it.
It's true. I mean, like so let's be real, okay? There is a bit of a swashbuckling swagger to saying that you own a cool piece of original art. You know,
Yes.
There is some, you know, hey, and it's not like a bad thing. You know, it's like we want to point to something in our house and be like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And I respect that. But just like you, I mean, I wish that I could afford all the original art that I want, but I cannot. And you know, I'm trying to get my kids through college eventually. So instead of buying another piece of original art, I can get an artist edition for much cheaper. And it's still, like you said, provides that, for me at least, it provides that excitement and that kind of peering through the, I don't know what the word is, like it's you get to see some of the special sauce that makes the book the book. You know, it gets you that much closer to the seemingly rubbing hands together magic of making art and stories happen. That is just literally like pencil, ink, and paper. I mean, it's like very.
It's
I get onto this crazy soapbox. I apologize. You got to bring me back down to earth, dude.
It's wizardry. I recently had Jim Mafood on the channel, and we were talking about the wizardry of Bill Sienkiewicz, and I had Tula Lotte and Becky on the channel this past week, Becky Clunan, and talking about wizardry of art, like the little things. And I get to watch your processes. Anybody that watches your YouTube channel, and like you're doing your little flicks, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're scratching, you're rubbing stuff. I mean, it's almost like this is, your YouTube channel has prepared us to see this stuff and know exactly how you did it. But still, it's really hard to comprehend that, you can do this. And, but what you do with the art is it's like, I don't know. I talk about how you're one of these people that's doing the complete comic experience these days, writing, drawing, creating stories. The stories, though, you're putting so much emotion into it. And obviously, Murder Falcon is the pinnacle of that. But do a Powerbomb, Extremity, like they're filled with all of this real feeling. And so approaching a story like this, how long was this gestating for you?
Well, when I actually think about relative to, like, say, somebody like J.R.R. Tolkien, who like spent 20 years writing The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Not very long at all. um, looking back, I'm trying to enter into my brain space in like 2014, 2015. I was really trying to figure out how I could prove myself in writing and drawing like a complete story that had a beginning, middle, and end.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to figure out how to get a comic book publisher to take a chance on me.
Yeah.
And I was also looking for things that maybe not necessarily been done before. I mean, obviously, Extremity wears many of its influences on its sleeve, but I remember like floating islands was like a thing in like video games and movies, and I just hadn't really seen it done super dynamically in comics yet. So I was like, well, there's a little set piece that I could use. And I just watched when did John Wick 1 come out? Do you remember?
Oh, that's got to be a decade ago.
2013?
Yeah, I want to say like 2014 maybe.
Yeah, you might be right.
Yeah.
Well, I was really getting back into revenge movies just after seeing John Wick. I kind of got excited, and I was like, well, revenge stories are very easy.
Sure.
They're not very hard to write, and I was kind of looking for something that might be a little simpler in the story department so I could really focus on the art department, because I am always stretched thin. Some piece of the toast is not going to get buttered whenever you tackle everything.
Yeah.
But anyway, all that to say, I was finding that if I just did a revenge story and if I just used like these visuals of like, like I had the visuals, I had the story, I had a lot of the concepts, sketched out. I had the vibe and the visual tone, but the story, it's like you have like all of the puzzle made, except there's like a big chunk right in the middle that like without it, the heart of it doesn't really work.
Yeah.
And everything kind of evolves from that one core center, which I found is actually really helpful for me now as I make stories, because I'm a little more able to recognize when I don't have that core. So what I was doing is I was basically making pitch pages and writing scripts without really having that emotional core. And it wasn't until I really took time to figure that out and be honest with myself and be like, this is not quite working. It does work. It's like an engine that works, but does the engine have a soul? Does it like speak in a way that isn't just 1 + 1 = 2? I was kind of looking like 1 + 1 = 3. There's like a magical element that only comes from putting, I feel, this is just a personal thing. There are plenty of people and storytellers that will disagree with me, but I feel like there needs to be some sort of element of the soul that needs to be put in, which kind of helps hopefully make the book more than some of its parts. And so Extremity was me trying to do that, especially with the losing of the hand.
Yeah. Right. Because you're an artist and a guitarist. You can't do either of those with.
I know. I just got a big fat synthesizer. I can't play that without hands.
Man. Oh, I mean, and the thing is like you get in from the jump and you're already into these characters. And that's something that shines through all of your work. Like,
thank you.
Powerbomb, and I'm a wrestling fan. And so like, that's what drew me to that comic, but not knowing a single thing of what it was about. Same with Murder Falcon. I didn't know that it was like entrenched in, some real heavy emotional stuff, but also like there's a guitar riff playing through that whole book.
Totally.
Like, and so it's one of the things that I like to talk about on this channel is the intertwining of music and creation, and then in the things that we, like soundtracks to reading, soundtracks to movies and all that stuff. But I'll try and stay on topic with Extremity for now.
We can go anywhere, bro.
Is there
the Extremities in the backdrop? We know why we're here. We can go.
Exactly. But is there a soundtrack to this book? Like, is there something that you would suggest listening to while reading Extremity, or something that a certain album maybe that was heavy on you while you were creating it? Well,
John Carpenter's music has always been a big kind of inspiration for me. His Lost Themes records, have you listened to those?
I have, yeah. I at least listened to the first one when it came out. I think it's up to 3 now.
It's 4.
Oh, it's up to 4.
So 4 is coming out soon, I should say.
Okay.
But in the liner, I got the vinyl record of Volume 1 because I loved it so much. I was like, I think this deserves to be in wax in my house. I was reading through the liner notes, and Carpenter like kind of wrote a little blurb. He's like, I kind of was thinking about new worlds when writing this music, and I hope your imagination and the worlds that
Wow.
you make in your mind will come to life alongside this music. Or I can't. That's a
A
paraphrase.
paraphrase. Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, holy cow, this is so awesome! Like this guy is in my head, because he was kind of like giving me permission to treat it like my own creation soundtrack,
Yeah.
So I listened to that music a lot when writing the script for Extremity, and I've continued to do so. It's the Lost themes have been on when like writing Transformers, Murder Falcon, Wonder Woman. It's been a huge part of my creative process is listening to those records. So thank you, John Carpenter.
Hell yeah.
And also back to your like original question, I really didn't start thinking about music and in conjunction with my art really until like Murder Falcon came along.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of like a bedroom guitar player when I was drawing Extremity. I wasn't really taking guitar very seriously. It was something that I would kind of do for fun here and there. And I was like good enough at it that I could hold my own, but I wasn't like actually pushing myself. I was kind of in that like working adult, married, trying to figure out how to pay my taxes phase. Guitar was like in no way a priority. So when I started working on Murder Falcon, it was because when I started working on Murder Falcon, by that time I had started taking guitar really seriously again. And was a big part of the creative process for Murder Falcon, but that's another story. So,
man, I dig it when you start up your Friday streams and you just got the guitar and you're doing stuff. I'm like, come on, play this. I'm like, and then I'm hearing you play stuff. I'm like, wait, is that this or is that that? And I'm just like, yeah, I music's a huge part of my life, just like it is yours.
that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And so speaking of the big book that you're doing, there's a little thing called Transformers. I'm an 80s kid. I'm an 80s, early 90s kid. I'm a little bit older than you. And I like Transformers. I was not a huge Transformers fan. But damn, if you didn't suck me in immediately, like 3 pages in, and then like, you're a big wrestling fan. So obviously I'm seeing wrestling moves that Optimus Prime is throwing backward suplexes, like he's doing the clothesline and all this stuff. And I'm just like, is there a point where you think you'll ever just write a comic that's boring? Because I don't know if it would be possible for you. Like, is there something that you're gestating with right now that you're just like, I'm going to write this one day? Because like, how are you're able to just take these comics, these stories, and just immediately grasp the person? And now I care about Transformers. It's not fair. It's not fair.
You know what? My art rep, I have an original art rep. His name's
Felix.
And I called and I told him, I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about doing Transformers. What do you think? He's like, what? That's not gonna sell. He can't help it. It's his job, right? It's like I tell him a new project I'm working on, and he's like thinking the numbers in his head, And I'm like, and I was like, I honestly, I hadn't thought that much about the original art or anything like that. I just wanted to do the book. And I told Felix, I was like, I just want to do this. I'm just excited. And he was like, okay. He was like, I'm not going to tell you what to do. And then like after like, it was the first issue had been out for like 2 weeks. He calls me up. He's like, where's the best place to get an Optimus Prime toy?
Yeah, you got him. You hooked them. Like you turn people that aren't into fans. And it's funny, like the tones of your stories, that, like I said, a lot of emotion. And the Darth Vader story you did, that's the opposite. Like that's emotional the other way. Like that's like, did you have to go to a different place to write such a dark, dark story?
Well, to be totally honest, the like creative prompt that Lucasfilm gave me when they asked me to write and draw a Darth Vader comic, they said, we would like this to not be a thinking about violence or like ruminative, like character piece on Darth Vader. They basically were like, we want this to be badass.
Yeah, yeah.
Please make it so. I was like, well, they did ask for this. So.
They did.
So like, there's this one line where like, there's like a little rebel trooper. He's like, and a transport, and in little tiny letters, he's like, our families. And I was like, I just kind of like, I don't know subtle. This is a bad thing. This is a self-critique. I don't know subtle.
Yeah.
whether it comes to a fight scene or emotions, whatever, I have this tendency to write and draw like a hammer, and maybe that will come back to bite me in the butt or whatever. But I can't help it. The 2D space feels so not constrictive. What's the word? I just feel like I have to work really hard for it.
Sure.
It's like it's a piece of paper that you're kind of interacting with, and I feel like I need to shout.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's engaging the reader's a big thing. Like I talk about it, and this as a content creator too. Like people have to be engaged because there is too much going on around us at all times now that's accessible. That and I say that about my shows. Like I don't want to bore anybody because I don't like being bored. So and it's funny you say that because you're kicking ass and taking names. I had a couple comic stores owners on the channel last week or 2 weeks ago, and it was Aton from Cape and Cal and the two guys that own Comics Place Bellingham. And I know you did a signing at Cape and Cal, and we all kind of agreed that like I don't want to put a huge burden on your shoulders, but the gospel, like the DWJ stuff is really bringing people into shops and keeping them there.
That's
nobody
awesome.
Like people aren't just buying Transformers. They're buying Transformers and then they're looking around and buying some other stuff.
Yes.
And that's, once again, I don't want, I know it's a burden, to think about, but comics can use more people like that, putting great emotional stories out with great action. And you and Spicer, it's like Spielberg and John Williams or something,
I'm gonna tell Mike you said that.
Yeah. And I feel bad, and I've heard you say like the Extremity, the signature edition, Mike's a little left out of it, but it's just a testament to everything that was created on paper.
I think you're right. And yeah, it's kind of I think of it as like a celebration of my wife used to work in theater, and like you can't make anything in theater without a crowd, Yeah. And it's like something that I actually really respect about that craft, because I'm like, I can't do that, But, I think in some ways the signature edition of Extremity is a bit of a celebration of the kind of, like we said before, the magic, the wizardry of like taking something that you are excited about and figuring it out and wrestling with it, because I did wrestle with that SHIT of Extremity.
Yeah.
And getting it onto a 2D page and hoping that the world listens. It's intimidating.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see. There's a specific page that kind of stood out to me that's not an action page, although that first double page spread is amazing. But it was the one of the die cut of the tower, where that page, to me, like you could easily take shortcuts and not put the detail in there, but you look, and I couldn't stop looking at that page. I like flipped the next, and I'm just like, hold on, I want to see what's really going on here. Do you still own a lot of it? I know you sell a lot through Felix, but
it's funny that you mentioned that page, because I actually gifted that to my dad for Christmas, I think. I remember he was reading it as it was coming out, and he met, I think that's issue 4. Whenever that issue came out, he was like, hey, that page was awesome. And I saved it, and I sent it to him for Christmas. And he framed it, and it's in his office in his studio, and he has like those cool frame lights that are shining on it. So that's still in the family. I have 3 pages from some scattered around the second arc that nobody was buying. They were sitting on Felix's site, and I was like, I think I just kind of want to keep those if we're not going to sell them, or if they're just going to sit there. So and then we still have all of issue 10, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Felix is hanging on to it.
Rainy day.
Yeah. And so I still have some of it. But yeah, when it first came out, people were kind of, there were definitely, it had its fans for sure, but it's not like it was this big, hit or anything. It took a little while to get steam, and it's funny because it's like, how many years has it been now? It's like 8 years ago.
Yeah, 7, 8 years.
It's a long time.
Well, I mean, that's, and I was a little late to the game. I had heard your name. I just, it was like one of those things. I'd pick up a book and go in a stack and then,
Yeah.
get to it. And then eventually I had gotten to do a power bomb and I was just like, oh my God, it just exploded my brain. And, I don't watch too much wrestling anymore. I was early 80s, obviously grew up with Hogan and stuff, but then the Attitude Era, and then, from 97 through 2005, I think I went to like 70 live wrestling events or something like that. Yeah, I went to like 3 Rumbles, couple WrestleManias. Like I was in the shit, and but it never leaves you. You never, I went to go see. I think it was when what's his name retired for the first time. Yeah, Daniel Bryan.
Wow.
Yeah, I was there ringside, and I hadn't watched wrestling in a couple years, but I knew who he was, and then it was just like you never lose the love for watching it. But
It's special stuff, man.
yeah, it is. It is. I know you got to go soon, but I do want to ask a couple other things. Your manga influence in your Japan, like I know you go to Japan on the regular. Is that just like when did that start? Like where was your love for manga when it started, and then your first trip to Japan?
Well, I wish I went there on the regular. I've been there twice. I went there in 2015, and I went there last year in November.
Yeah.
But I hope to go again. My dad wants to go, so I'm going to take my dad.
Awesome.
That'll be my excuse, But manga, the first manga, I think it was maybe Ranma 1/2 that was in my library. I remember like my young adult librarian lady, the person who worked there, she was awesome. Like really, a really cool person. And she had her finger kind of on the pulse when it came to like new things that were coming out in the States. And Dark Horse was publishing a lot of that stuff in the 90s.
Yeah.
So she was getting that. And I remember books like Love Hina, the like romance comic that I actually really enjoyed. Hellsing. There was one random one that I got from a Barnes & Noble that I'm so happy that I recognized its quality because I forgot that I owned it, and then I bought it on Amazon used like 15 years later, however long, because I was like, this looks cool, and I flipped through it, I'm like, oh my God, I used to own this. That was Metal Guardian Faust by Tetsuro Ueyama.
Yeah.
Who also did Lampo, the Hypersonic Boy. He did Mitsuyoshi, stuff that has not been translated. Metal Guardian Faust was the only thing they translated. It's not available anymore. It's out of print, but the art is just stellar. The story is, but the art is incredible.
Right,
and it had a big effect on me back then. So I was kind of getting anything I could get my hands on. And, but at first it was very slim pickings. This is in like the mid to late 90s. So, and then as more things got started getting translated in the early 2000s, I had no money. So I was like trying to figure out how to like read all of my Full Metal Alchemist, the manga, because that was a great manga. And like, I remember like saving pennies, dude, pennies, so I could get volume 3 of, of like, Full Metal Alchemist. And I did it, and then I forgot about sales tax and I had to go find some more pennies.
Well, yeah, I know it's a huge influence on a lot of people, and it was never on my radar. But over the last year and a half, a lot of chats with Jim Rugg about manga, and then befriending Sean, Japan Book Hunter, who I've had on the channel. Like he's opened my world up to the like stuff that I really am interested in, like Sayonara Nippon, but then like crazy horror stuff. That he's like, oh, you got to check this Shintaro Kago story out. But it's such an interesting world, and like their culture being so centered on comics and comics making it's so interesting to see. So, the more that American comics makers talk about it, I think the more that it's going to open the rest of our minds up to this whole other literal country of comics making.
I think it's true, and I think like also. You look at like, I don't know, think of like a Silver Age artist that maybe is not mentioned in everyday conversation in like modern comics zeitgeist. There's tons of them, right?
Like Maurice.
I'm having trouble. Yeah. Okay. Sure. There you go. Right.
Yeah.
So those like that exact same kind of like level and vibe and where they were in history exist in Japanese comics.
Yeah.
That we don't know about. Like we know like Full Metal Alchemist and like Jujutsu Kaisen and all like there's all these A-list titles, that get fed by what, you know, what the modern kind of popular thing is right now, which is not bad. That's not a bad thing, but it's the simple fact that like there were A-listers and B-listers and C-listers that were incredible in Japan in like the 60s and 70s and
Yeah.
80s, early 80s, that are completely gone. I mean, they don't really, either they don't make comics anymore, or they're doing something else, or
Yeah. Or they
and
passed on.
Sean over at Japan Book Hunter is fighting that good fight. You know, he's giving me new questions to ask, like things I didn't even know, like Battle Slave Lusa, you know, with a metal arm in the fighting pits.
Or for me, it's I have a cursed face on my back. You know, like this shit is it's so wild, and it's like it expands the palette, it expands the things and the way you look at things. And you know, he's somebody that I'm glad I befriended, and you know, he's like, dude, whenever you come out to Japan, I'll take you hunting for books. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna try and go out there, if not this year, next year. But yeah, and it's just, you know, and one of the things about this channel and about talking to creators is I want to learn more, and I want to be able to share that with people, so that we're all not sitting there stale or bored or complaining about the comics that are coming out. And, you know, I push back against all that. And I love that you put a lot of emotion, a lot of your personality in the comics. And one of the things, and bring it back to Extremity, one of the things I love about it, you know, I listen to punk music and metal music since I was a kid. So I push back at the system in general. And the quote, "Remember why you fight," really, you know, that's one of the themes throughout the book. And it's just so strong to me. And it just, you know, it's one, you know, was that specific line, was that something that like came to you quick, or it was in the middle or towards the end? Is it something that was just, you wrote it down and it was nothing special?
Oh man, dude, I'm so sorry. It is totally the last one.
That's okay.
I was like, should I lie? Should I lie? No, we're gonna be honest.
Right. You know, like,
but it's a great line. It is a great line.
It is.
I definitely came up with that on the fly.
Well, I mean, you know, that sometimes the simplest nondescript things become the most important things. You know, like you know, the simplest line in a movie becomes a catchphrase, you know, or a song that somebody wrote, like Kurt Cobain wrote in 30 seconds, becomes "Smells Like Teen Spirit," you know, like you never know what's really going to hit people at the core.
That's very true.
Yeah. And so I know you've got a super busy day, but I really would love to have you back on for more in depth. And I know you're busy. I know you got your swing classes. I know you got your I know you got your YouTube channel. You got kids, a wife. You've got deadlines. But you know, I would love to make time for more in depth chat, because I love pushing the medium on this channel, and it just makes me happy to talk to people about creativeness and inspiration and all that stuff.
Well, stay tuned. We might be reaching out, because I have more books on the horizon, and we're going to need somebody to talk to about them.
Yeah, and you got a sci-fi epic that you're working on that you won't tell anybody about, but I'm excited.
Not a soul, but it's coming.
Well, we've got 2 days left for the Kickstarter. The link's down below. This video will be up on my channel forever. Dan's channel, Daniel Warren. What is it? It's Daniel Warren Johnson 1, right? That's the YouTube.
Oh, YouTube. Yes, I think so. But if you just look up good Daniel Warren, you'll find me.
Yeah, hanging with I like to call it, like I said, I like to call it hanging with DDubs. It's just, you know, it sounds like a sitcom starring you. But last question I'll ask you: best wrestling match ever that you can remember?
That I was at, or that just in general?
No, just in general. That, like, something.
When I don't know if this is my favorite or the best, but Kenny Omega versus Naito G1 Climax 27, that final.
Kenny Omega's the shit.
Dude, he is. And, you know, Naito's knees weren't as bad then.
Yeah.
And it was just a special time, and that match is so great, and the crowd is so invested. When I'm trying to get people to watch wrestling, I give them that match.
All right. I go classic first Hell in the Cell. Taker Mankind. I mean, I remember watching that on pay-per-view, and just like JR, I thought he was dead. My God, he's dead. You know? But yeah, it never, you know, like, I'll watch that and I still cringe hard. I'm just like, oh, come on, Mick. You know. But I really appreciate it. I'm glad I was able to get you on for a little bit. And I think you would find a good time. I know me and you would have a good in-depth conversation. So whenever we can arrange that, let's talk music and wrestling and comics.
Sounds good, brother.
All right, y'all. Thank you for listening to that. It was short but sweet. I had him on just because it was basically he was doing a press junket for the end of the Kickstarter. So excited to have him back one day. And with that, once again, I got to ask, please review this. There's a star review rating on Spotify. There is star review, and you can leave an actual worded review on Apple. I think you can leave a star review on Google or Amazon. And then if you're listening to this on YouTube, hit the like button. But if you leave a comment, that definitely helps. I'm going to get to promoting this at some point and do some more than just posting the podcast. But right now I'm a little crazy busy. And so I appreciate you, my friends, my loyal listeners, my enemies, whoever's listening. I don't really care. Well, I do, but I don't care in what context you're listening. If you're hate listening, hey, I love you. Anyway, this has been another episode of
Direct Audition. Oh yeah, I'm in your ear holes.